I'm Ezra Levant. It's June 22nd, and you're watching Battleground. Oh, hi there, Ezra Levant. I am the Rebel Commander at the Rebel.media. We're based here in Toronto, Canada, but we have viewers around the world. We have folks in the United Kingdom, folks in the United States. We have folks everywhere, and that's what makes this live chat so fun. Every day we do it at 12 noon Eastern time. The comments on the right-hand side of the screen obviously are free to make, but if you want to chip in a few bucks, you can do what YouTube calls a super chat. That costs, I think you can get in for $2, and that makes your comment brightly highlighted. And I think if you chip in like $5, that pins it to the top of the little box there for a period of time commensurate with how much dough. I've seen people put in $50. And what's great about that is that we actually get a portion of the dough, which is sort of a replacement for ad money that YouTube has stripped away from conservative sites. Every day I do a show on a different medium. It's not on YouTube, it's on our own proprietary player. It's behind a paywall. You have to pay $8 a month for that. If you haven't done that yet, it might be something you want to consider. But this is free. And fun, so we make a little bit of dough on the Super Chat. We have little video clips sometimes, websites that I bring to your attention. I've done some terrible impressions this week. I apologize for those. But Fridays we typically call Free for All Fridays, which is just really heavy on the comments. So I do have some images and vids that I might call upon, but I think I'm just going to do more like a generic call-in show because we talk about heavy things all week. So let's do that. Let's do that. I'm just going to start going through the comments. I noticed while we were waiting that Lauren Southern, spelt the male way, Lauren, says that pic is a good shot of Ezra's eyebrows. Looks good, looks real. You know, I'm deeply proud of my eyebrows. I'm kidding around. I don't think I've ever thought about my eyebrows, and you've made me extremely self-conscious about them. Now, I know, of course, can we call up Justin Trudeau's eyebrow melting viz? It's so weird. There was this press conference that Justin Trudeau did around the G7, I think, or maybe it was right before, and it looked like one of his eyebrows was sort of falling off or melting away, and it almost looked like he had sort of like stick-on eyebrows. And can we also call up the clip of that global TV reporter who took Justin Trudeau up in a plane and asked him about his favorite shampoo? Do you know the one I'm talking about? Let's get that one also. But let me know when you've got the eyebrow clip. Now, I want to let you know, I don't actually think he has fake eyebrows. I think it was just a lighting and camera angle thing, but I don't know. Here, you be the judge. Play the eyebrow clip. There you have it. What's going on there?
Prime Minister's left eye there.
Yeah, that looks weird, doesn't it? So I thank you for the compliment about my eyebrows. Let me know when we have the shampoo clip. Okay, I got an email yesterday from someone who said, stop beating up Justin Trudeau. Stop being mean to him. Stop being mean to Britney Spears. You know what? I take your point because we don't want to just be, gossipy and chatty about eyebrows and things. But I would put it to you that there's an enormous deficit of any sort of criticism of Justin Trudeau in this country. And the odd time there is a criticism, for example, once Jason Kenney, the United Conservative Party leader of Alberta, he said Justin Trudeau was as shallow as a finger bowl and is not on top of any of his files. I think we all know that's true. But the media party in unison said, you apologize, young man. How dare you be so vigorous and challenging and hurtful in your criticisms? They were tone policing the official opposition. And Jason Kenney blinked. He bent the knee and he apologized for saying what we all know is true, that Justin Trudeau is shallow. So my point to you is, can there be one place in all of Canada where we can have a laugh and a chuckle at Justin Trudeau? Just one place. I mean, look at all the Trump derangement syndrome, wall-to-wall Trump derangement syndrome in the Canadian media. Can we take that, divide it by 100, so not be deranged, not be crazy, just have some fun and be cheeky and once in a while talk about eyebrow things? Yeah, I think we can. Let's keep reading some comments. A super chat just went by. Let me see that. That is from Ezra's First Irregulars. Keep up the good work. Glad your eyebrows are real. They're real and they're amazing. Thank you. Same Thing One says, this episode of Battleground is not showing up on my husband's YouTube account today, despite searches. Just mine. Why? I don't know why. And we have had 3 meetings with YouTube, including at the Toronto headquarters with their head of corporate affairs or public affairs. They're of no use or ornament whatsoever. Just absolutely no help. Joe Serrano says, hey, Ezra, greetings from Mexico. Well, greetings from Canada. Thank you for that. And I wonder if you are in Mexico on vacation or if you're based there. And I wonder if you have any views on the 2-year-old girl who has been made a media star around the world because she was crying because her mom smuggled her into the United States at 11 p.m. And, 2-year-olds often cry if they're up that late. If they're being arrested by police because their mom was doing something illegal, they do often cry. That media narrative that she was separated, the 2-year-old was separated from her mother, has been proved false. I'm not going to get too deep into that because that's the subject of my full show tonight. But that 2-year-old girl who was on the cover of Time magazine, the cover of the New York Times, cover of the New York Daily News, the photo was on CBC's The National, that photo there, she was not, in fact, taken away from her mom. In fact, she was put with her mom in a family center. Her mom had been previously deported by Barack Obama in 2013. She is a serial criminal. I'm sorry, it's against the law to illegally enter the United States. What's more, and I'm getting into too many details because I'm going to go heavy on this tonight, she has 3 other children, by the way, and a husband who's got a good job in Honduras. And she basically ran away with the 2-year-old girl, abandoning her other 3 kids and him. And he was opposed to this. And he said she ran off with their 2-year-old Yanela without even talking to him. And he said he's just glad that they're now detained because he says they're safer now than with the coyote human traffickers. That's what they're called. Canada used to have human traffickers, and the Tamils called the snakeheads or something. And these are called the coyotes. It's a gang. So the husband and father said he's glad Trump detained her because she's safer now, he says, than when she was with the gang she paid $6,000 to. So that's the truth. It reminds me so much of Alan Kurdi. Can we put his image up? Terrible story. Alan Kurdi, a young Kurdish boy. Terrible tragedy. And it was a tragedy, but it was also a miracle that a Reuters photographer was right there the moment that he was discovered. I say again, it was a horrific tragedy whenever a young boy dies. But the way this story was weaponized and this body was turned into a human weapon to bash down the doors for mass migration is shocking, and they're simply looking to redo that once again. As you may know, Alan Kurdi's aunt, the wife of the dad, said they weren't fleeing Syria, they were already in Turkey. They were getting on a boat to go to Europe for free dental care for the dad. In fact, the aunt gave a press conference to that effect in Canada. Let's get back to the super chat. Someone named Remark puts my name Ezra in triple parentheses, which is sort of an online symbol for Jew. Yeah, it's true. Tony Nagy says, saluting Commander Ezra. Hey, Tony. Lawrence Heather, good morning, Ezra. Well, good morning, and it's just afternoon here in Toronto. Ezra's First Irregulars, UK representing. Well, thank you. You know what? I have been in some communication with Tommy's family and his lawyers, and we'll be putting out a video probably today or tomorrow with a little bit of news. Not a lot of news, but just a little bit of encouraging news, baby steps. So I'll have that news. I had hoped to have it ready by now, but I just want to make sure it's just right. So Let me just quickly read a super chat from Keith McIntosh. And Hannah, did you say we have that Curdy Ant clip? Okay, yeah, the shampoo clip. Okay, if you can look on YouTube for Aylin Curdy's mom, aunt. Oh, okay, so we'll find that dentist part in there. Let's read Keith McIntosh's super chat. He says, it's funny, immigration raids are very common in the timeshare trade in Mexico, where well-dressed gringos sprint out of the back of resorts and try and blend in with the tourists. Horrible if ICE does the same, though. Isn't that interesting? I don't quite understand what you mean by that. So they're just trying to sneak in and blend in with the tourists, and then what? Maybe you can explain, Keith, what that scam or scheme is. I don't quite understand it. All right, we have a clip. This is from Tom Clark. I was joking about Trudeau's eyebrows. I'm not the only one who talks about Trudeau's hair, but with the mainstream media, I want to show you Tom Clark, who used to be the boss of Global News, a major, like the lead journalist, the most senior journalist at Global News. Look at the question. Tom Clark had this shtick. He's a pilot, so he would go up in his little one propeller airplane with a newsmaker sitting next to him, and they would have little GoPro cameras, and he would interview a newsmaker while they were flying in the plane. It's pretty cool. It was sort of like, that karaoke car shtick that James Corden does, except it was in a plane, and they don't sing. It was an interview. I thought it was a neat idea. So you've got Justin Trudeau in the plane. You can ask him anything. He literally cannot escape. He is trapped with you in a tiny plane for at least half an hour, let's say, maybe an hour. I mean, that's amazing. You could ask him anything, and it's all being filmed. So if you ask him something embarrassing or a gotcha question, he can't wriggle out. So what is Canada's leading parliamentary journalist with a very stentorian voice? What question does he put to Justin Trudeau? Well, I'll let you watch for yourself. Take a look.
The one that the entire country wants to know. What shampoo do you use?
What a disappointing answer this is going to be. Whatever happens to be hanging around at the time. If I'm in a hotel, it's whatever they give me. If it's whatever my wife tends to be using right now, I do great for, I don't know, whatever it is, color-treated hair or something or other. It's, I just grab whatever's there.
We're going to turn around.
That's a pitiful question, really, really pitiful question. And the answer was a little too eager and a little too detailed. And yeah, I don't want to talk about that, but I'll talk about that now. You see, I do use what I have, but I'm at home. I use my wife's shampoo, and it's for color-treated hair because I like to get rid of the gray. And I'm not. Whoa, Tiger! You could have just laughed, and instead of saying, "Well, I've got a disappointing answer for you. It's a little bit long, but I'll get it." You could have just said, "That's funny." No, come on. But I don't know which is lamer. That Tom Clark says that's the question the entire country wanted to know. Or that Justin Trudeau, after a little, okay, I'll answer. Yeah, so that's the media we're faced with up here in Canada. All right, thank you, Hannah and Justin, who have been searching. I mean, I just throw little requests at them, and I say, find this, and they got to scour the whole internet and get it. But let me get back to Aylin Kurdi. That was a little boy on the beach in Turkey, not Syria. His family had already fled and were already safe in Turkey. So what was he doing getting on a boat then? Because he was in Turkey. Turkey's not a great place. I wouldn't want to live there. But the Kurdi family was fine. They were working and doing stuff. Why did Aylin Kurdi's dad put him on a boat? Why was he going on the boat? What was he doing? Well, let's ask Aylin Kurdi's aunt, the sister of Aylin Kurdi's dad, what that whole boat trip was about. Because like I said, they weren't in Syria, so they're not fleeing Syria. They're in Turkey, and you don't have to flee anything in Turkey. You can just walk out if you don't like it. Here's the aunt.
Muhammad in Germany.
Is he going to stay in Germany?
For now, yes.
How did you find out that the application has been rejected?
They sent me by mail.
No, that
Did
was
they say why?
They don't have the document Canadian government require.
Was that specifically for Mohammed's family, and was there any paperwork for Abdullah's family?
I did not do Abdullah's paperwork yet. Financially, I said I can.
Okay, I don't think we. Oh,
Has a story about it. The situation is Abdullah does not have any teeth. Has a story about it. So I've been trying to help him fix his teeth. But it's gonna cost me $14,000 and up to do it. He need denture, he need teeth implant. So when I told him, there is no way I can get you the money in one time because dentists need to get payment right away. And Western Union, usually, if I send them the money, they only allowed $1,000 at the time, not under their name, of course. Has to be a third person to collect the money and give it to them. So I said to him, actually my dad, he came up with the idea. He said to me, I think if they go to Europe for his kids and for better future, I think you should do that. And then we'll see if we can fix his teeth. And that's what I decided 3 weeks ago. I sent him the money with...
did you hear that? So let me. We had a false start there, but then we got right on the teeth thing. So that's Aylin Curdy's aunt. That's the sister to Aylin Curdy's dad. So he needed dentures. He needed implants. And it would cost $14,000. I'm skeptical because that's what it probably would cost in Canada. I mean, in Turkey, I can't imagine implants would cost the same. But let's take her at her word that Aylin's dad needed $14,000 worth of dental, and she could only send him $1,000 at a time. So her dad, Aylin's grandpa, came up with the scheme. Go to Germany. Go to Germany to take care of your teeth. Go to Germany. A few weeks ago, my dad came up with the idea, actually, go to Germany, fix your teeth there. That boy was dead because his dad put him on an inflatable raft that was not seaworthy. They were going to Germany not to flee persecution. They had already fled Syria. They were already in Turkey. They were going to Germany to get free dental by claiming to be refugees. It was a scheme hatched by Aylin Curdy's grandpa, as told by Aylin Curdy's aunt, as executed by Aylin Curdy's own dad. That's the boy. Put the picture of Aylin Curdy up again. That's the boy who was found face down on the beach. And it was just an amazing miracle that Reuters was right there to photograph it, and that photograph went viral worldwide. This dead boy is dead because his father put him on an unseaworthy raft, because his father, in concert with the rest of his family, wanted to get free dental care. And that, my friends, is a fact. I see there's another super chat from Keith McIntosh, who said, gringos working timeshare without proper documents run the risk of deportation. So Mexican equivalent of ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, conducts raids on the hotels. The gringos, in the middle of the presentations, have to run out the hotels onto the beach. Oh, now I understand. Isn't that funny? Jeez. Yeah, you know, Mexico has extremely strict laws regarding immigration, and actually, property laws. You can't buy. If you're a foreigner, there are a lot of restrictions on you about where you can buy real estate and how you can own it in Mexico. They're very strict. They're much stricter than Donald Trump. Super chat from Primpal08. Dead child gets coverage when it suits their narrative. Dead child in Nice, France, after terrorist runs people down, gets no coverage and no sympathy. Well, it's almost like you have seen my show tonight already, because I do, in fact, make that exact point with that exact photo. Maybe we can use it right now, Hannah, as well. That child in Nice, France. Just a reminder, a couple years back on the French National Day, we're coming up to that next month, the beautiful, beautiful city of Nice shut down their main beachfront street. Everyone crowded the promenade, and they had their celebrations. So you had a big long road that the traffic was stopped and people crowded on it, like a 4th of July or a Canada Day. It was their national day. And a Muslim terrorist got into a 19-ton truck. It's not just a delivery van. And it's not even just like a semi-trailer. This is an enormous, heavy, heavy truck that could bash through anything. And he went down this closed-off street that was packed with tens of thousands of people, and he just mowed like a lawnmower, but instead of cutting blades of grass, he cut people down dead. 86 people murdered, more than 400 wounded. That's almost like blowing up an airplane. You've killed so many people and injured so many people. And they were just scattered on the road. But authorities covered up the bodies almost immediately, which was appropriate. But the media, other than one image, can we show the image of the one child? Blurred, of course. And is that ubiquitous? Is that image everywhere like Aylin Kurdi's? No, because that's just a Christian kid who was killed by a Muslim terrorist. That's against the narrative. The narrative is these poor migrants, we need them to come over. That has not been weaponized, unlike Aylin Kurdi and this 2-year-old Yanela in the United States. Keith McIntosh with another super chat. The timeshare guys dressed in Tommy Bahama shirts and khaki slats tries to mix in with tourists in bikinis until Mexican ICE leaves. Bottom line, Mexico enforces immigration laws just like the U.S. does. I absolutely believe it. Gabriel Swift, £5. Can you please cover the Marrakesh Agreement? Now, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by the Marrakesh Agreement. Are you referring to the United Nations Global Warming Conference there from a couple years ago? I have to say that's the only Marrakesh Agreement that I know of at the top of my head. We did cover it. We sent our reporter Sheila Gunn-Reid to cover the Marrakesh Conference, and it was great coverage. I think if you go to rebelun.com, you can see that. Let me just type that in my computer right now, rebelun.com. You can see her coverage of the Bonn conference, but I'm just scrolling down. I'm not sure if you can find it on our site. Sheila Gunn-Reid went to Marrakesh for the Global Warming Conference. She did such a good job covering it. Can we find the clip of her leaning against the electric car chargers? I want to show you this clip. Our Sheila Gunn-Reid applied to go to the Marrakesh conference, and they tried to keep us out. We really leaned on them hard. We sent demand letters. We had lawyers involved. Finally, they caved in. We were going to Marrakesh anyways, whether or not they were going to let us in. They finally let us in. Sheila Gunn-Reid was there. And there were over 1,000 reporters there. Sheila was the only one who was independent. And by that I mean she was the only one there who was not a propagandist. And so she covered things like, tiny things that if you were alert, you would report them because they're interesting. For example, that none of them recycle their stuff. They just throw their garbage around. Is that interesting and newsworthy? Not really, other than these are the preening virtue signalers who in their own conference don't follow their own rules. She noted that they sprayed the desert with water twice a day to keep the dust down. Marrakesh is in Morocco, very dusty, deserty place. So while they're lecturing you and me on don't waste water, there's a drought, global warming, they're literally spraying the desert twice a day to keep the dust off the delegates' fancy shoes. But my favorite was when she saw these electric car chargers. Now, do you think there's a lot of electric cars in Morocco? Morocco's a poor place. Electric cars are expensive. More than that, they're not reliable if you have to drive a far distance. There's not a lot of electric car chargers in Marrakesh. But there were at the conference, and Sheila leaned up against one. And well, let me just let the video do the talking. Play the clip. You see, she was trying to make one point, that no one was using these electric car chargers. It was a big joke. They were all in their fancy limos. But she accidentally made another point. They weren't plugged in. They weren't plugged in. The electric car chargers at the United Nations Global Warming Conference were fake. They were fake. She was the only reporter in the entire conference who reported that. So they kicked her out of the Bonn United Nations Global Warming Conference the next year. She went anyways and did better reporting from outside the conference than the 1,000 hacks inside the conference did. All right, let me catch up on some super chats that I missed. I presume that's the Marrakesh conference you're talking about. If not, let me know. Keith McIntosh was in Nice last month and walked the promenade where the massacre occurred. Amazingly technologically advanced diversity barriers, but sadly no memorial. I specifically asked. That is outrageous and completely unsurprising. As we showed you the other day, there's no memorial to Lee Rigby as well. The British soldier whose head was hacked off by an ISIS terrorist on the streets of London. Alan Ansell, what do you think of Michael Savage? I'm aware of Michael Savage. I've not watched his stuff, and it's not out of antipathy or anything. There's so many people to follow and watch, and I haven't got into him. But so I can't say if I'm pro or con. I just don't know enough about him. Keith McIntosh, come on, you Tightwads, it's Friday. Open up your wallets and make a contribution. You think the Rebel operates on children's laughter? And Fairy Dust, well, thank you very much. It does chip in. It does make a bit of a difference. And we've got a great staff here in Toronto. A lot of people who work behind the scenes. We have more people who work behind the scenes than who work on camera, of course. I mean, everyone from our web editor to, we were big enough that we needed a full-time accountant. Just for an example, we have an office we pay rent for. We have editors who take the videos from our talent around the world and edit them. So there's a lot of folks who go into it. Lulu Bobs chips in $5 and says, I've heard that Fox has been bought by Disney. Will this change anything for Fox News? Hopefully coverage will stay fair and balanced. Out of the corner of my eye, I've been watching news of that. Now, I don't know what parts of Fox have been bought. I don't think it's the news part. I could be wrong. I thought it was sort of the sports and entertainment parts. But here's the thing about Fox News is it has such a strong brand. It has such a strong defined reputation. Its editorial tone, its talent. If it were to be changed by any new owner, it would immediately lose its appeal to its viewers, and it would be like destroying it if it was dramatic. Now, Fox has shown that it can replace talent. Megyn Kelly left, Tucker Carlson came in, Bill O'Reilly left. So they've rejuvenated, they brought new talent in. So I'm not saying that any particular journalist is indispensable, but I'm saying if the editorial thesis and tone and trajectory of Fox were ever changed, Fox's viewers would say, no thanks, see you guys later, and they would go to an alternative that would probably spring up. There are some alternatives now. They're not as powerful, of course. Fox News has been doing this for 20 years. Didn't just happen overnight. You have online alternatives. You've got CRTV. You've even got The Rebel in a small way. You've got the One American News, OAN. You've got, Newsmax has a TV. There's a lot of attempts out there. Fox is so dominant. They're so good. They're so successful. They have big budgets. If someone were to tamper with that, though, that audience money, i.e. audience eyeballs, would follow the talent. Tucker Carlson I see Eric, Balling has left Fox and he's shown up at CRTV. So my point is, it would be counterproductive for a new owner to try to change Fox News. It would just destroy the value of it. Now, maybe there are some insane investors who would say, we hate Fox News so much we want to buy it and euthanize it. But Disney, I think, is a publicly traded company, if I recall. And I don't think that would be in the interests of their shareholders. Let me catch up. I think there's some more super chats that I've missed. Ben SK, £5 says the Marrakesh Agreement involves the EU and Africa made in the last 4 weeks. Okay, thank you for that clarification. So that you weren't talking about the United Nations Global Warming Conference there a year and a half ago. Thank you for that. My whole anecdote about Sheila is therefore irrelevant. It sounds like it might be a human trafficking agreement. I should confess to you that I haven't read it, but now you've made me curious, so I'll take a look. Again, I might be guessing wrong. What's very interesting to me, Hannah, can you call up that French language tweet from Marine Le Pen that I retweeted the other day and translated? It's a poll taken in France. You can probably find it on Marine Le Pen's French Twitter account faster than mine. A survey of Frenchmen asking them, do you think our immigration policy is too lax? And about 61% say yes. And then there was a ship called the Aquarius that had hundreds of migrants, and it was turned away from Italy by the new Italian government. Do you support this? I think like 64% of Frenchmen said yes. And then there was a third question that I can't recall by memory. Anna, if you get it, just feel free to put that up again. So my point is, I think that, here we go, thank you. Sondage, that is French for a sounding, a poll. Les Français et la politique migratoire. What do you think of that accent? The French and the politics of migration. So look at the first question. Pour les Français, la politique migratoire est trop lax. For France, is the migration policy too lax, just right, or too firm? 61% say it's too lax, 26% say just right, only 13% of Frenchmen say it's too firm. Next question. Should France take the Aquarius? That's that Italian boat. 64% say no, 35% say yes. The closing of the Italian ports to humanitarian boats, well, that's a loaded question right there. Humanitarian boats? Yeah, I guess that's one way of calling human trafficking. But look at that. Even with that slanted language, that bottom one, la fermeture des ports italiens aux bateaux humanitaires, the closing of the Italian ports to humanitarian boats. Who would say yes to that? Oh, you're against humanitarian boats? How about call them human? How about just call them boats with migrants on it? How about just be neutral? Despite that spun wording, 67% of French say d'accord, which means I'm in accord with that, which means I agree with that. Only 32% say pas d'accord, I'm against it. That's France for you. Isn't that interesting? Ezra first to regulars, £1.99. Keep up the good work. After chat open to all. Thank you. I think I've caught up on the super chats. Is that right, Hannah? Okay, let me see. Maybe I missed one more. I read the one from Bennis. I read the one from Lulu Bob's. I think I missed one, but my friends will send it to me. All right. I'm going to get back to the comments. It's Friday. We call it Free for All Fridays, so we're just going to go through the comments. It's 12:34. Let me get through as many as possible. Jake Wright says, free Tommy Robinson. Well, we're working on it. We're working on it. We have a small role to play. We're crowdfunding. I've had a little bit of communication with the lawyers. I think they're pretty good lawyers. And in fact, I'll make a proper, very small announcement. I'm not a spokesman for the family, but I am involved in crowdfunding the lawyers. So I'll have a small announcement. I'll try and record a video on that today and get that out, because just keep you posted. VM Parliament chips in $5. Love your show. Do you ever sleep? Seems like you tweet 24/7. That is an embarrassing criticism. I know you mean it as praise, but it's not cool to tweet as much as I do. You know what? It's true, and you get hooked on it, and you think, why am I checking Twitter? I just checked Twitter 5 minutes ago. I don't need to see what the absolute up to the second latest is. I checked the news 5 minutes ago. I'm sure nothing's happened in 5 minutes. So thank you. I know you mean that as a compliment, but it is terrible that I tweet so much. Lauren Southern, spelled the masculine way. Ezra, why are they bringing in migrants from warm climates and then talk about climate change and carbon emissions? Yeah, this doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Luo Mi says Quran is a war manual. It is. It is. It is various things. It's a book of laws. It's Mohammed's law. It's a book of history or revisionist history. If you read the Quran, you'll see there's a fellow named Isa. You might know him as Jesus. There's a gal named Mariam, that's Mary. There's Yaqub and all sorts of characters from the Old Testament and the New Testament. And you won't quite recognize them in the book because they do things differently than in the Christian and Jewish Bibles. There's Musa, that's Moses. Ibrahim, that's Abraham. So there's a lot of revisionist history. Listen, that's their holy book. It was the last of the three monotheistic religions. The Jews were first with their Torah, the Christians with the New Testament, and Islam presents itself as having perfected those religions. And yeah, but it is a document of war. It tells the stories of war and it exhorts to war and has lots of rules for war, including the rule that you can take conquered women as your rape slaves. That is in the Quran. And that is why ISIS does it. ISIS doesn't rape women just because they're rapey. They are rapey because it is in their holy book that if you capture an infidel woman, you may rape her as a prize, just the same way you can steal, chattels and property and money in war. You can steal women and make them your rape slaves. I don't know if you saw, actually we haven't posted it yet, but I did an interview with Robert Spencer about his new book, The History of Jihad, and we talked about, did you know, I didn't know this until just a few days ago. Baltimore. If I say Baltimore, what do you think? Well, if you're like me, you think Baltimore, Maryland, right? It's a big city. It's not too far away from Washington, D.C. It's been in the news with the Black Lives Matter movement. Baltimore. There's a place in Ireland called Baltimore. I didn't know. I'm sure if I was from Maryland, I would have known, but I'm a Canadian. I didn't know. Did you know that when Islam was ascendant before, they would have slave raids on the British Isles and to Ireland. And there was a slave raid, a Muslim raid in Baltimore, Ireland, that took almost the whole town. They went and they grabbed those freckly, red-headed Irishmen and took them away. The men worked as slaves. The women were raped as rape slaves. They were kept as raped concubines. Muslim raiders came to the United Kingdom and to Ireland with a systemic kidnapping for rape slavery. That's a fact. I didn't know that. I talked with Robert Spencer about his new book, which covers that situation. What do you think of that? Let me keep going. Michael Fay says, Gaza Freedom Flotilla. Well, I agree with you if you mean freedom from the terrorist dictatorship under which Gaza struggles. Gaza has no Israeli soldiers. There used to be a few thousand Jews who lived there. They were forcibly removed by Ariel Sharon, the Prime Minister of Israel at the time. Gaza is not free. It's a theocracy run by a terrorist group. It's a military base camp for terrorist attacks on Israel. So yeah, I believe in freeing Gaza too. I don't want to hand them over to Fatah, the PLO. They're not much better than Hamas that runs Gaza. Real Men Fish, rest in peace, Charles Krauthammer. You will be severely missed. You are so right. I had the pleasure of interviewing him a couple of times. So smart, he was so thoughtful, and his columns were so sharp. You know what? He had a book of collected columns, and he came on. He let me interview him about he had a strict rule with Fox that he couldn't be a pundit on other TV channels. But the one exception to that rule was when he had a book, he was allowed under his contract with Fox to do the circuit promoting the book. So that's the only way guys like me who weren't with Fox could talk to him. It's a good rule for Fox. Fox really helped build up Charles Krauthammer. He was their sort of designated smart guy. Everyone else wanted to talk to Krauthammer, but he had to say no, except for when he did books. Did you know that his book of columns, so this wasn't even new stuff. This was the columns that had been out there. Can you imagine a collection of past columns sold more than 1 million copies of that book? That's staggering. That shows how big a connection he had with his readers. I found that I can't even believe that to this day. That just a compilation of old columns, 1 million sales. That's of a book. Let me keep reading. RamTuber57, been watching the conservative independent YouTubers growing at a very fast rate in recent months. Well, I'm going to politely disagree with you. Maybe you're observing something that I am not. But in January, February of 2017, YouTube basically put a muzzle or a muffler on conservative YouTubers, demonetizing en masse, taking them out of advertising buying pools, shadow banning them, restricting them. I mean, even today, people say that they were not given information about, they were not given an alert about this live chat. We, our revenues were cut by 85% in a single month. Our traffic was the same. Our revenues were reduced by 85%. I told you before that I met with the YouTube bosses here in Toronto, and they didn't deny it. They said that's just how it is. They don't care. They, like the rest of Silicon Valley, are at war with conservative opinionators. That's why so many people have to, that's why InfoWars makes their money from selling, supplements. That's why people like Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin make their money through Patreon, because YouTube has demonetized conservatives. They've killed them off, or tried to. We've managed to survive by hook and by crook through crowdfunding and whatnot, but so I'm a skeptic of what you said. Primpal08 chips in $5, thank you, and says another great book by Robert Spencer, The Truth About Muhammad. Ole Larson, I think that's DKK, is that Danish kroner or something? I'm not sure. Keep on rolling. All right, will do. I have been to Denmark. I've met a number of people there who are concerned about Islamification. I went to Copenhagen, and then I went right across the water to Malmo to see what a 50% Muslim city looks like in Europe in the 21st century. Alan Ansel says, what do you think about Trump's Space Force? I just saw the headline. I didn't read the details. I think it makes sense to have a Space Force. I think China will be there if America is not. And I don't like the idea of China being dominant in space. So I guess based on the headline alone, I would support it. Craig McDonald, what is your take on the Trudeau government pushing through the current equalization formula for another 5 years? Alberta gets the shaft again. When in the next meeting of the Producers Club here in Alberta? Okay, some great questions there. Yeah, it was sneaky. It was ramming that through quickly. Just shows that the Liberals have written off the West, Alberta in particular. They don't care. That pipeline, Trans Mountain, that will not be built. It's just not going to be. They're not even pretending that it will. They bought the underlying existing 70-year-old Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain pipeline. There was no problem with that. It's working, hunky-dory. $4.5 billion. They overpaid by $1 billion, by the way. There's no plan. There's no way to get the other $7.4 billion to make the pipe expanded, which was the whole project here. And money was never the problem. Kinder Morgan had the money, just like Energy East had the money, and the Northern Gateway had the money. The problem is political. So yeah, Trudeau doesn't like the West one. But next meeting, the Producers Club in Alberta, we should do one again. I know we did one, I'm trying to remember the month. We had a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We did breakfast in Calgary at Phil's on Glenmore and Elbow. And then we had lunch in Red Deer, that hotel right off Gates Avenue. And then we had a dinner event, not in Edmonton proper, but it was at the Legion in, I think it was Leduc. And I was there, I spent the day with Sheila in both those three cities. So we did some fun events in Alberta, but yeah, we should get back out there. Oh, I should say that we did we did have an event in Calgary. We rolled out our film, Save the Christians. We didn't do that in Edmonton. So Craig, I can't remember what city you're from, forgive me. But yeah, we should get back out there and do more stuff. I like those events. Susan Zomer, a regular comment, not a super chat, says the pipeline will be built by the Brotherhood. That's why all the work permits being handed to the jihadists. No, I don't think that's the answer. You know, can I tell you something? Hannah, can you? Last night I did a tweet. I tweeted a Fox News video of a steel mill in Ohio and Texas that announced a $500 million expansion. And it's a clip. They interview the CEO, and he's just so excited. I mean, imagine putting $500 million into a steel mill in America. Like, you go back in time 2 years before Donald Trump was president. People say, you're building a steel mill in America? Are you crazy? Don't you know you don't do that anymore? Don't you know? You shut down steel mills in America, and if you're going to build a steel mill, you build it in China. Don't you know that's how you do it? Like, I mean, really. You're putting $500 million into a steel mill in America. It's called the Rust Belt for a reason. How things change. And yeah, this guy was so excited, this owner of the steel mill. And he went on Fox. And he said the tax cuts and Donald Trump helping level playing field, $500 million. And then after he talked, the host said, and the steel mill should be operational in, now I don't want to give away the answer, how long it takes in Canada. Applications for big industrial projects in the $1 billion range can take years. Kinder Morgan, I think, made their first application in 2013. I'm going from memory. I think there were 5 years there. Keystone XL pipeline application, I think, was in 2009. It still hasn't been built, the Keystone XL, so that's 9 years. Any luck finding that clip? It was a YouTube clip on Fox Business. All right, I'll take you out of suspense. I'll tell you, my friends, I throw these obscure requests to my friends and say, quick, give me the video. I'll tell you, because I couldn't believe it. Okay, so it's June 22nd today. And here's this CEO who just said, I'm building a new steel blast furnace thing, whatever, for $500 million. And you know when it's going to be operational? In September of this year. Yeah, that's what it's like if you're in a pro-industry, pro-development jurisdiction. And this CEO was so excited, he was almost hopping up and down in the chair. If we find it, I'll show it to you, but I gave you the punchline. The punchline is from announcement to completion, July, August, September. What, 90 days? Oh, and he's hiring, and I don't know if we have the clip. He's hiring 1,000 men to build this thing. So you're taking 1,000, and the one, he's got 2 locations. One's in Texas, one's in Ohio. In Ohio, it's in like a little town, or a medium-sized town of like 30,000. And there's going to be hundreds of permanent jobs. Amazing. Amazing. But I don't know if you saw, industrial confidence in America is at like 95%, the highest ever recorded. And it's true. It's true. You know one thing about Trump. When he says buy American, hire American, he means it. And if you doubt how serious he is, look at him fight with China and even with Canada. Anyone who's not going to open the gates to American products, he's going to fight hard. All right, let me see. Have I missed any super chats? Ezra's first irregulars. Ezra needs an embedded Space Force correspondent. Well, there'll be a lot of jokes there, just really obvious jokes about being a space cadet. Okay, let's just bang through a few more regular chats. If you make a super chat, I'll be sure to read it. Synth works. People take opiates as painkillers even when they are not in pain. It's a big issue, opiates. It's a huge issue in Canada too, not just in the States. Killer Kane Zero. How do you make a green economy? Drive away the industry and jobs, borrow until you're broke to invest in green tech, then wait for the world temperature to drop. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. I saw a headline today, Rachel Notley, the socialist premier of Alberta, was tweeting something about, now that Doug Ford is the premier of Ontario, he's going to drive away investment in green tech, drive it to Alberta. Yeah, that ain't investment, sister. That ain't investment. When the government takes tax dollars to give out in subsidies and grants and crony capitalist lobbying gifts, that ain't investment. You can call it investment. That's corrupt corporate welfare. So, there's no real investment in wind. I've seen wind turbines from California to Alberta to Hawaii to Xinjiang, China. And what do they have in common? I'll tell you. When the subsidies end, which they always do, the wind turbines immediately fall into disrepair. Why? Because they are constantly an economic negative. The only reason to build a wind turbine is for a subsidy or for a PR or political purpose. A wind turbine for which the subsidy is removed will immediately fall into disuse, will be disconnected, etc. It does not even pay for itself on an ongoing basis. Whenever I see wind turbines, I take out my cell phone and try and film them because I always like to show people, look at this. 80% of them are broken, not turning. They're broken. I've seen them in Germany too. Oh my God, they're ugly in Germany. I think the ugliest is in the UK. What they're doing to that countryside, the UK, the countryside of the UK really is beautiful. What did Shakespeare call it? This happy land, this great, I'm not even going to try and go from memory about Shakespeare. What did he call it? This land, this England. Yeah, I'm gonna read it to you because it's so pretty. This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England. Can I read it to you? Give me a minute. This is from King Richard II, Act 2, Scene 1. And I'm not just talking about the desecration and defacement of the British countryside by these enormous wind turbines. And I think it was James Delingpole or Lord Monckton, two great Brits, who put the idea in my mind that they're really religious symbols. They're three-armed crosses, not a regular cross. They're religious symbols of pagan environmentalism replacing Christianity. They're horrifically ugly. Let me read Shakespeare 400 years ago. This royal throne of kings, this sceptered isle. Oh, isn't that pretty? This earth of majesty, the seat of Mars. This other Eden, demi-paradise. This fortress built by nature for herself against infection and the hand of war. This happy breed of man, this little world, this precious stone set in the silver sea, which serves it in the office of a wall, or as a moat defensive to a house, against the envy of less happier lands, this blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England. Oh, isn't that nice? And isn't that the truth about the English Channel, eh? Like a moat, defensive to a house, against the envy of less happier lands. Ain't that the truth? And the European Union and the mass migration, the Brits want back. Brexit was about getting back to this. Am I right? Am I right? How can that? But is that Britain still alive? I don't know. I wish it were. Did you say we had any video? Were you guys signaling to me? We had a video? No. All right. Let's see if I can read some more. Gotta love El Chupacabra says, gotta love Fridays. Synthwork says, Land of Hope and Glory. Yeah, there's some great songs. I was just, hey Justin, can you Google The Minstrel Boy to War Has Gone from, I was just telling my friend Justin the other day, I'll find it, about a great movie. We played that Michael Caine impression the other day. Michael Caine impression, she's great. Did you like Michael Caine? He was in a movie with Sean Connery, I don't know, about 30 years ago. And it was called The Man Who Would Be King, based on a story by Rudyard Kipling, of a couple of Brits, swashbuckling British soldiers in India in the 19th century, who go and find this undiscovered little kingdom. The last contact they had with outsiders was Alexander the Great. And as you can tell in the name, The Man Who Would Be King, so these two Brits, and they had some guns with them, conquer this area and install Sean Connery as the king. And they call him Son of Secunda, sort of the son of Alexander, because he had some symbol, some Mason symbol. And it was just great. Can we get the song The Minstrel Boy? I'm going to see if I can find that. I'm not, you know what? That's a tough thing to find in about a second. But if you love British stuff, if you love Britain at its peak, at its prime, if you love the British Empire, there's a song called The Minstrel Boy. And it was sung by the two of them in that movie, The Man Who Would Be King. And I'm going to stop there because there's no way I'm going to find that in time to show you. And I don't want to make you wait while I Google it, but maybe we'll have it another day. Oh, you know what? Speaking of Kipling, he's got these, every Remembrance Day, I read a poem by Kipling called Tommy Atkins about how poorly we all treat soldiers 364 days a year, and then one day a year we pretend to care. And it was written over 100 years ago, and it was true then. I want to play for you. Can I play for you a video that I think I can find quickly? It's also, it shows Kipling's form of multiculturalism. Kipling made a poem called The White Man's Burden. Now that sounds super duper racist, doesn't it? Oh, you got The Minstrel Boy? Okay, I'll call for that in 1 second. We might go a couple minutes long today, because I want to show you Gunga Din and I want to show you Minstrel Boy. Give me a minute of The Minstrel Boy, Justin. So there's Michael Caine.
12 valiant saints their hope they knew, and mocked the cross and flame. He met the tyrant's bandish steel, the lion's gory mane. He bowed his head, his death to feel.
You know what? They actually sing the song twice in the movie. The first time, I think, they're in a cave on like the Himalayas or something. But again, I'm going from a 20-year memory. My memory yesterday about the Wedding Crashers wasn't accurate. But you get a feeling of the flavor there. Those two Brits sort of conquer this crazy world. You got to see that movie. It's called The Man Who Would Be King, written by Kipling. Kipling, I think he was born in India. So he had a deep appreciation for things Indian. He wrote the Jungle Book. So Akela and Bagheera and Ka, these are all Indian words, Hindi, I presume. So he wrote these stories about the jungle and about the tiger, Shere Khan. And he loved Britain, he loved the British Empire, he loved India. He loved colonizing, but to liberate and lift up. He wrote a poem called The White Man's Burden. He basically said, we have to help the world. It's our burden to lift the world. Now, you would say that's very, 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 very racist. It may be racist in a technical way. But if you read the poem, he's saying, it is our job, let us liberate and pacify and bureaucratize and maybe eventually democratize. And I think he's the best poet since Shakespeare, frankly. And I want to send you, oh my God, it's 1 o'clock. I want to extend this by 2 minutes, you guys. I'm going to send you a link to someone reading a poem called Gunga Din. What is Gunga Din? What does that word even mean? We're going 5 minutes late, guys. We're stretching this for 5 minutes. Gunga Din was the name of some local, ethnic, Indian helper-outer to the British soldiers. And I want to show you this because it starts off a little bit racist, but then he says, "You're a better man than I, Gunga Din." Can we play? Did you get my email there, you guys? This is just some dramatic actor doing a reading of Kipling's Gunga Din. So again, Gunga Din is the name of some local Indian helper-outer to indigenous British stock white soldiers in India. And I know it's 101 already. I want to go for probably 2 minutes. This is just some guy, but I've seen this and it's so powerful. Gives me the chills. Run the Gunga Din.
Gunga Din. You may talk of gin and beer when you're quartered safe out here, and you're sent to penny fights and order shot it. But if it comes to slaughter, you will do your work on water, and you'll lick the blooming boots of him who's got it. Now, in India's sunny clime, where I used to spend my time, a serving of Her Majesty the Queen, of all them black-faced crew, the finest man I knew was our regimental beastie, Gunga Din. It was. Din! 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 You limping lump of brick dust, Gunga Din! Oi! Slippy of the rayo! Water! Get it! Pane Layo! You squidgy-nosed old idol, Gunga Din! The uniform he wore was nothing much before, and rather less than half of that behind. For a piece of twisty rag and a goatskin water bag was all the field equipment he could find. When the sweating troop train lay in a siding through the day where the heat would make your bloomin' eyebrows crawl, we shouted, "Harry, by!" till our throats were bricky dry. Then we whopped him, but he couldn't serve us all. It was Dee! You heathen! Where the mischief have you been? You put some joldy in it or I'll marry you this minute if you don't fill up my helmet. Gunga Din! He would dot and carry one till the longest day was done, and he didn't seem to know the use of fear. If we charged or broke or cut, you could bet your bloomin' nut he'd be waiting 50 paces right flank rear. With his mussig on his back, he would skip with our attack, and he'd watch us till the bugles made retire. And for all his dirty hide, he was white, clear white inside, when he went to tend the wounded under fire. It was Din, 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 with the bullets kicking dust spots on the green. When the cartridges rang out, you could hear the front file shout, "Ammunition mules! And Gunga Din!" Well, I shan't forget the night when I dropped behind the fight with a bullet where my belt plate should have been. I was choking mad with thirst, and the man who spied me first was our good old gritty, grunting Gunga Din. He lifted up my head, and he plugged me where I bled, and he gave me half a pint of water, green. Oh, it was crawling, and it stunk. But of all the drinks I've drunk, I'm gratefulest to one from Gunga Din. It was Din, Din, Din. Here's a fella with a bullet through his spleen. He's drawing up the ground and he's kicking all around. For God's sake, get the water, Gunga Din. Well, he carried me away to where a dooley lay, and a bullet come and drilled the beggar clean. He put me safe inside, and just before he died, I hopes you loves your drink, says Gunga Din. So I'll meet him later on in the place where he is gone, where it's always double drilled and no canteen. He'll be squatting on the coals, giving drinks to poor damned souls. I'll get a swig in hell from Gunga Din. Yes, Din! Though I belted you and flayed you, by the living God that made you, you're a better man than I am, Gunga Din.
Think of that. What do you think of that? Did you understand it? There's that one line, he's white inside. Isn't that something? Remember when this was written 100 years ago? I think that is a praise, the highest praise imaginable in a different era. That's Rudyard Kipling saying, these men in India that we disparage and shout at, well, you heard the last line, you're a better man than me, Gunga Din. That's Britain. That's Britain. Folks, it's 1:06. We went on far too long. Thanks for watching the show. It's Friday. I'll be back on Monday with another Battleground at 12 noon. Until then, watch my show tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. And on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, goodbye, and keep fighting for freedom.